Good evening to you both. And let's begin with the quiet release of an Alberta government survey on a separate pension plan. Responses that echo what some have been saying for years.
I don't know how stupid they think we are.
My question is, what's wrong with these people?
This was from a town hall conducted by the opposition back in November of 2023 when the Smith government proposed the creation of a provincial pension plan, arguing Alberta would be entitled to half of the CPP. Turns out a survey of Albertans found 63% were against the idea. Despite that lack of interest, the government now indicates it will continue to engage on the topic through the Alberta Next panel. Laura, there have been calls for more than a year and a half for the Smith government to release these survey results. Postmedia even took it to the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner. What's the impact of these results coming out now?
I think that there was simply no choice. And, you know, I have to say sort of off the top that I'm getting really disturbed by the fact that not just this government, but so many governments are doing surveys using public opinion, and then if they don't like what's happening, they just throw it out. 21 months is a ridiculous amount of time to wait for something that could impact so many people. So at the moment, you know, Danielle Smith's riding a bit of a high with, with talking to Premier Moe and a whole lot of other things. But you will notice, because the results did not go her way, there wasn't a big splashy thing. It was just kind of like, yeah, people don't like it, but we're going to keep going. And I have to say that I think a big part of the problem is a complete lack of detail. We don't know how it will be implemented. We don't know when it will be implemented. We don't know how it will affect people who work across Canada, which, of course, they're covered by Canada Pension Plan. I don't think you have any choice but to oppose this because it's just a big idea.
Chaldeans, a government commissioned survey by pollster Janet Brown, who we know from participating in this panel as well, a poll from May found 55% support for an APP if it guaranteed all Alberta seniors the same or better benefits. What weight do the results from 2 years ago carry at this point?
Well, I think the weight of that survey by Janet Brown compared to this one is that we have seen development relating to the chief actuary's report. First of all, the report by the chief actuary says that Alberta will get noticeably less amount than the government anticipated. The government was saying somewhere around 53% of the Canada Pension Plan from the LifeWorks report. And now the chief actuary is saying we're going to receive less, maybe between 15 to 20%. So certainly the case hasn't been bolstered for the government in terms of making a case that there's a need to disengage from the CPP. And I think people are a bit nervous about moving into a new situation where their pensions are not guaranteed, or not necessarily guaranteed, but there's uncertainty around the pensions. So I think Albertans are a bit skeptical, and I think the survey results show that people are not very enthused about moving into the APP option.
Laura, beyond the surveys, how much traction do you see being built for an Alberta pension plan if it becomes a focal point of the planned Alberta Next panel that the Premier is going to be leading in the months ahead?
We are in a very different situation than we were when this was first proposed. And of course, when it was first proposed, Danielle Smith was, fighting with Justin Trudeau. And she was kind of moving into more of a separatist direction. Now, with Mark Carney, she's talking about how she wants to really work with him and the energy developments and, getting some of the roadblocks out of the way. And I think that if we went through with this APP, that sends a really mixed message because on the one hand, we want to work with Canada. We want to be part of Canada. On the other hand, we don't want to be part of Canada. And I think it's mixed messaging that's got to be resolved. We got to have it one way or the other. You can't have both.
All right. Next up, a united front in pressuring the federal government.
The national self-sabotage that has happened over the last 10 years has to end. That's what I mean by enough is enough. We cannot keep on fighting against these kinds of nation-building projects.
What we hear in words from this new Prime Minister in the existing government are very good. And I would say they're strong statements that are being made. Over the next number of weeks and months, those statements are very quickly going to have to transition into actions.
The caucuses of the Alberta and Saskatchewan governments gathered in Lloydminster Wednesday, calling it an opportunity to speak to Ottawa with one voice, and they're re-upping the call on the Carney government to change policies impacting the oil and gas sector, including the emissions cap and clean energy regulations. Chaldeans, what's your read on the Alberta-Saskatchewan messaging and how it plays in the wake of that recent First Minister's meeting in Saskatoon?
Well, Michael, I think it reinforces the common front that Western premiers, perhaps excluding BC, have been putting forward on the need to help develop natural resources and remove the hindrances that the former Trudeau government put into place. I think Alberta-Saskatchewan relations haven't been better. They are on a common front here, and I think they're reiterating the message that has been communicated to the Carney government. I think basically it reinforces the First Minister's conference messaging that there's the importance of addressing some of the hindrances that is preventing Canada from moving forward on natural resources.
Laura, how do you see this dialing into the national dialogue as the Carney government motors forward with Bill C-5, the One Canadian Economy Act that would give the feds some pretty sweeping powers?
My concern with this bill is that it does still seem to be getting pushed through pretty quickly. And I always worry when parliamentarians don't have enough time to really take a look at the minutiae, because we know that sometimes governments slip little things into the bottom of bills and it gets passed and all of a sudden we have something new. The idea behind it is good if we could actually do that. We do have to be careful, though, that, that doesn't mean we're going to sweep away all First Nations rights. That doesn't mean we're going to sweep away all environmental concerns. I truly think this can happen, but it's got to be very thoughtful. And there's a lot of politics around energy in Canada, as we well know. And so striking the balance between what the Western premiers want and what the rest of Canada wants, as always, is going to be tricky.
We heard from the head of the Alberta Provincial Council of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress off the top this evening on meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky at the G7 summit in Kananaskis. Laura, how do you see that opportunity of being face-to-face with the president resonating across Alberta within that broader Ukrainian community, the impact it will have?
I think we saw it all on Orisia's face. It must have been absolutely amazing. And, we have a very large population of Ukrainians here, and they're very tight-knit, lovely people. And this, I would imagine, would kind of like be a Catholic meeting with the Pope. And I think that can only resonate through the entire community, and I agree with her. It was really good to see him invited to the G7 so that he could participate in some of the talks and just have a chance to lay out that, hey, there's a lot of other stuff happening internationally, but this war is not over yet.
Chaldeans, how vital is that Alberta's support in the global efforts to sustain sovereignty of Ukraine?
Michael, I think the Alberta diaspora, Ukrainian diaspora, has been very supportive of the efforts to deal with this Russian aggression. And I think that the example of these small contributions that are coming from Alberta, I think it plays a larger role in building up global support for efforts to deal with this aggression. I think Michael Orisia is correct. It was a successful meeting. The only fly in the ointment is he wasn't able to meet Trump, and I think Trump left the meeting. And I'm watching out to see what happens in the coming NATO meeting in The Hague. What kind of diplomatic role will Ukraine be given in that discussion? Because I think it's going to be a crucial meeting. And if we see Ukraine being undermined there, and then I think we need to, Albertans, Canadians have to ramp up the effort for more pressure on Russia.
Laura, to pick up on the point you were making there earlier, some of what Chaldeans is saying as well, if we look beyond that meeting of Ukrainian Albertans, how much value did there end up being in Volodymyr Zelensky making the trip to participate in the G7 summit? Do you think it was worth his effort?
Absolutely. I think it was completely worth his effort. Again, to get out there and make sure that that what he is saying does not get lost, and because of the support. And when you are supporting somebody who is very far away and living through what he and the Ukrainians are living through, to be able to just come up and say, we are behind you 100%, I think it was absolutely worth the effort, both on a diplomatic and on a very personal level.
Chaldeans, you mentioned the NATO meeting in the Hague that's coming up later this month. If you look beyond that, though, what's to be made of U.S.-led peace efforts failing to gain traction? Is there the worry that this is a war that just drags on and on and on?
Yeah, Michael, I think Mr. Trump is making these kind of overtures to Mr. Putin, but it's not really yielding a result. We're seeing a continuation of attacks on the civilian population. And I think Mr. Trump has given Mr. Putin too much, room to maneuver, and he hasn't delivered any results. So hopefully at the NATO meeting, there will be a bit more effort, to increase sanctions and to offer more support to Ukraine. Because I think what we've seen in the G7 and elsewhere is Mr. Trump hasn't been able to deliver any positive outcomes for Ukraine because of his over enthusiastic support and for Mr. Putin's stances on this conflict.
Laura, last 20 seconds or so to you. With the Russians intensifying attacks, how would you rate hope for a ceasefire at this point?
Little to none at this point. Don't forget, this was supposed to be a 3-day war. We're into year 3. I agree with Chaldeans. I think Trump gave Putin far too much credit, and I can't see Putin backing off.
Okay. We'll have to leave it there. Good to see you both. Thank you kindly for this.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.